I still can't believe what happened last weekend. There I was watching in complete shock as this middle-aged woman in a floral cardigan dumped an entire wheelbarrow of garden soil into my car. Through the partially open window, she was muttering something about teaching him a lesson about respect while shoveling dirt onto my dashboard. With surprising efficiency, the craziest part, she was so focused on her revenge mission that she didn't even notice the police cruiser turning onto the street, its red and blue lights reflecting off my windshield. I had called them 20 minutes earlier, and their timing couldn't have been more perfect. The look on her face when she finally looked up and saw those flashing lights, priceless. That's when I knew this HOA Karen had finally messed with the wrong person. Let me back up and explain how this bizarre situation unfolded. I'm a grad student visiting my old college roommate, Greg, for spring break in his quiet suburban community called Oakwood Estates. The neighborhood is picture-perfect manicured lawns, coordinated mailboxes, and strict rules enforced by what Greg called the most controlling HOA in the state. He warned me that some residents took the Homeowners Association guidelines very seriously, especially the board president, a woman named Patricia Holloway who lived 3 doors down, just park in the driveway. Greg advised when I arrived, unfortunately, his girlfriend's car was already in the driveway, and his parents were visiting with their SUV in the second spot. Street parking is technically allowed. He assured me it's a public road. Just don't block anyone's driveway. So I parked my modest sedan along the curb, making sure I wasn't blocking any mailboxes or driveways. The spot happened to be directly in front of a large 2-story colonial with perfectly trimmed hedges and a property protected by security camera sign prominently displayed near the front door. I thought nothing of it until we returned from dinner around 9 that evening and spotted a neon green paper tucked under my windshield wiper. Notice unauthorized vehicle residents and approved guests must park in designated driveways. Only street parking violates HO Code 23BE, move immediately or face consequences. The note wasn't official, just printed on fluorescent paper without any HO letterhead or signature. Greg rolled his eyes when he saw it. That's Patricia's house. He sighed. She thinks she owns the curb in front of her property. Just ignore it. She puts these on any car that parks there. But there's nothing in the actual HOA rules against the street parking. She's just made that up, feeling a bit uneasy, but reassured by Greg's confidence that I wasn't breaking any actual rules. I left my car where it was as an extra precaution, though I made sure my dash cam was on overnight mode. It's a habit I developed after someone hit my car in a parking lot last year and drove off without leaving a note. The camera activates when it detects significant movement around the vehicle, a feature that would prove incredibly valuable in less than 12 hours. The next morning, I headed out early to grab coffee for everyone. The moment I opened my car door, I was hit with the unmistakable smell of fresh garden soil. At first I was confused. Did I track something in yesterday? Then I looked down at my seat and froze. My entire front seat was covered in dirt. Dark, rich potting soil mixed with what looked like fertilizer pellets. It was everywhere, ground into the upholstery covering the dashboard, filling the cup holders, and even stuffed into the air vents through my partially open window, which I'd left cracked about 2 inches because of the warm weather. Someone had methodically dumped what must have been at least 20 pounds of garden soil. I stood there in complete disbelief, trying to process what I was seeing. Who would do something like this and why? As I was taking pictures with my phone, an elderly man walking his dog slowed down nearby. He glanced around nervously before approaching me. "You the owner of this car?" he asked quietly. When I nodded, he sighed. "Thought so. Look, I didn't see anything myself, but if I were you, I'd check your camera." He nodded toward my dash. Camp Patricia's been doing this kind of thing for years. Someone parks in her spot they find their car messed with last summer. She poured birdseed all over a delivery van that parked there for 20 minutes. The paint was ruined from all the bird droppings. He looked over his shoulder toward Patricia's house. Nobody ever does anything about it because she's got connections with the town council and she's the HO president. People are afraid of crossing her. My shock quickly turned to anger. I thanked the man and went back inside to review my dash cam footage. Sure enough, there she was, Patricia Holloway. HOA president recorded in full 1080p resolution at 6:15 that morning. The footage clearly showed her wheeling a garden cart to my car, checking to make sure no one was watching, and then proceeding to shovel soil through my partially open window. She was even talking to herself the entire time, saying things like, "This will teach him to read the rules." And "not so convenient to park here now is it." The most disturbing part was the smile on her face. She was enjoying every moment of this petty revenge. Greg was furious when I showed him the video. "That's destruction of property," he said immediately. "You need to report this." I hesitated at first. I was only visiting for a few days and didn't want to create ongoing drama for my friend. But the more I thought about it, the angrier I became. The interior of my car was damaged. I'd have to pay for professional cleaning. And this woman thought she could get away with it simply because she had some made-up authority from an HOA position. After a quick search confirmed that what she'd done was indeed criminal mischief and vandalism. I called the non-emergency police line. "We'll send an officer over, but honestly, these neighborhood disputes are usually civil matters." The dispatcher told me that changed completely when I mentioned I had clear video evidence of the vandalism. 2 officers arrived within 30 minutes. Officer Ramirez and Officer Chan reviewed the footage on my phone, their expressions growing increasingly serious as they watched Patricia methodically dumping dirt into my car. "This is pretty clear-cut criminal mischief," Officer Chin said. "Would you like to press charges?" I nodded without hesitation. This wasn't about a parking dispute anymore. This was about someone who thought they were above the law. The officers walked up to Patricia's front door while I waited by my car through the dash cam, which was still recording. I could hear the conversation perfectly. Patricia answered, wearing the same floral cardigan from the morning footage. "Good morning, officers," she said pleasantly. "What can I help you with today, ma'am? We're responding to a complaint about vandalism to a vehicle parked on the street." "Officer," Ramirez explained. "Do you know anything about that?" Patricia's demeanor changed instantly. She crossed her arms and lifted her chin. "If you're referring to the unauthorized vehicle that's been illegally parked in violation of our HOA regulations, then yes, I left a notice yesterday informing the owner to move it." "And did you do anything else regarding that vehicle?" Officer Chen asked. "I may have left a more memorable reminder this morning," Patricia replied with disturbing confidence. "As HOA president, it's my responsibility to enforce our community standards. That vehicle doesn't belong to any resident or approved visitor." The officers exchanged glances. "Ma'am, are you saying you put dirt inside that car?" "I provided a practical demonstration of why we have parking rules," she said as if explaining something to a child. "Sometimes people need more than a written notice to understand the inconvenience they cause." Officer Chen's voice became noticeably firmer. "Miss Holloway, regardless of any homeowners association rules, you don't have the authority to damage someone else's property." The vehicle was parked legally on a public street. Patricia's expression changed when Officer Ramirez pulled out his phone and showed her the dash cam footage. Her smug smile disappeared, replaced by a look of genuine surprise. That's an invasion of privacy. You can't record me without my permission, ma'am." "There's no expectation of privacy on a public street, officer," Sean explained, "and the camera belongs to the vehicle owner who was recording for security purposes, which turned out to be necessary." What happened next was something I'll never forget. Patricia's face went through a rapid series of emotions: shock, anger, indignation, and finally the dawning realization that she had made a serious mistake. She attempted to backpedal, claiming she was just making a point and would pay for cleaning, but the officers weren't having it. "Miss Holloway, turn around, please," Officer Ramirez said firmly. "You're being arrested for criminal mischief and vandalism. You have the right to remain silent." As they handcuffed Patricia on her perfectly manicured front porch, neighbors began to emerge from their homes. Some looked shocked, others oddly satisfied. One woman across the street actually gave me a subtle thumbs up when Patricia wasn't looking. Apparently, I wasn't the first victim of her vigilante property enforcement, just the first with irrefutable evidence. While Officer Chan escorted Patricia to the patrol car, Officer Ramirez explained the next steps to me. The district attorney would likely charge her with criminal mischief, which in our state carries penalties of up to 1 year in jail and fines up to $2,000 for damage under $500. Given her lack of prior criminal record, she'd probably avoid jail time, but would face substantial fines and restitution costs. 2 days later, I received an official email from the Oakwood Estates Homeowners Association. Expecting perhaps an apology, I was surprised to find A formal notice informing me that Patricia Holloway had been immediately removed from her position as HOA president and temporarily suspended from the board pending a formal review. The email specifically cited actions contrary to the association's code of conduct and potentially damaging to the community's reputation. It seemed even her fellow HOA board members had limits to what they would tolerate. The final blow came a week later when Greg texted me the outcome of Patricia's arraignment. She had been charged with criminal mischief and ordered to pay $1,200 in restitution for the damage to my car interior, plus a $500 fine. The judge had been particularly unsympathetic when the prosecutor showed the dashcam footage, noting that Patricia's position of authority in the community made her actions all the more egregious. According to Greg, Patricia had stood open-mouthed in shock as the sentence was read, unable to believe that her reign of petty tyranny had come to such an ignominious